everyone. Welcome to this edition of Tarah Talks. My name is Tarah Flynn, and I'm going to be your host today. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Todd Hirst's presentation that he gave to the Leduc Chamber of Commerce at the beginning of this year. And his presentation was given 3 narratives that we need to pay attention to in the year forward of 2022. I love Todd Hirst. He's a local boy from Wetaskiwin, and he's a really out-of-the-box thinker in regards to different viewpoints that we can use to change the way that we are propositioning ourselves in a province. So 3 narratives that he said that we should point out to was that resources are the source of wealth. The second was that you need a job to earn an income. And the third was inflation, because that is such a big topic these days. So resources are the source of wealth is what the first one he talked about. And it was in regards to, it's not so much the resources, but it's the labor that is actually the source of our wealth. So he kept using words like productivity, creativity, and innovation for bringing ideas to how we produce and extract our resources. So we've had so many innovations changing the way that we really need to start and pivot that. Yes, we love Alberta oil. That's a great big marketing ploy, great company that's done a lot of good marketing for that product. But we need to now start maybe being more aware of the labor that's involved and the amazing things that that labor has done. And it also brings me back to then the Edmonton Global and all the initiatives that they're bringing in within the tech sector and how that's really advancing our economy here in this region is tech. Tech is everywhere in Edmonton. And again, that productivity, creativity, and innovation, again, it's tying those 2 markers together with tech and with resources. And then the other one was that you need a job to create income. So he has some really great graphics in regards to this and how it started off with that you had a job, you retired, and then you passed away. And now it's not that anymore. We went from having a job to having careers to unemployment or employment insurance being a thing now. How you have one career and then you have to change career and how many times you go back to school. And it's really posing the question of, does this job make me happy? And is this what I want to do with with my life? So these questions are really changing the way that our workforce is having a job and approaching careers in a way that hasn't been in the past. And then, of course, he talked about inflation. I also did a blog on inflation and a Tarah Talks on inflation, but he really brought it down to the 4 things that are causing inflation. So inflation is supply chain disruptions. We've heard that all over the media as well. So that is because factories were closing because of COVID. And with those factory closings, they weren't able to make the product. So then therefore there was going to be a lag time or lack of supply because they weren't being able to continue production. So again, basic laws of supply and demand states that if there's not a lot of supply, then demand goes higher and therefore the price is going to go higher. So that's going to increase inflation. Food production. So with the mounting global climate change and all the crop fairs all over the world, we're seeing the price of some goods get really high. And this is only going to get worse as they're calling for more crop failures in the next few years. The third was help wanted. So with the lack of staffing and the amount of people leaving the job force, many companies are increasing their wages to get employees to come back to work, which then, of course, is going to be needed to be rolled to the consumer because businesses are not going to be holding that price increase without and losing their margins because they're going to need their margins to survive as well. So they're going to have to increase their price to get jobs, people to come back to work. But then at the same time, he's going to be rolling that onto the consumer. So I thought that was really interesting. So, and then of course, he talked about pent-up consumer demand. So many people have been saving money over COVID as they couldn't go out and spend it in shops, restaurants, and travel. So there's a lot of pent-up consumer demand where they want to spend their money. So they're waiting for things to open up. So one of the final comments that he mentioned was that increase in interest rates. So the last time we had really high inflation, we all heard the story, interest rates went super high to curb that inflation. So one of the things that he said is that out of all of these factors for inflation, in actual fact, an increase in interest rate is only going to affect one of them, which is the pent-up consumer demand. Higher interest rates is not going to affect the supply chain disruptions because that has nothing to do with the interest rates. That was a labor thing and closing down the factories and all of the stuff having to do with all of that. And then like the food has nothing to do with crops, right? And all the global changes in the climate. And then as well, we had the higher wages and the help wanted. That, again, is not going to have anything to do with the interest rates. So given that, like I've always thought that, yes, we're just going to have an increase in interest rates. It's, yes, they're going to get increased, but it's not going to be as drastic. And the word he used was tempered. So I think that was really interesting, because it'd be interesting to see now, if they can't just increase the interest rates to curb the inflation, what are they going to be doing to curb the inflation? Because it needs to be curbed. So he said it's at a 20-year high in Canada and a 40-year high in America. So that's drastic. So he said, yes, interest rates are going to be increased in April and May, and then there should be rate increases in the next year and a half. But we should not see it to the same extent as we saw it in the past. So I thought that was really interesting as well. So I really want to say thank you so much for watching and tuning in. And it was so so happy to be able to share this, because I really enjoy Todd Hirst and all of the stuff that he provides, and that the chamber does this for us. So that was super awesome. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.